I have a friend from Brazil, but well, maybe going on with I can say other things. Yeah.
But I'd like to know what is your opinion about African people, because I really want to share this with you.
Yeah, but you see, if you see them in their countries, it's different looking here when you see them here. Also for the Brazilian, because I visited also Brazil, is completely different. Because it happens to me also, when I was in Africa, I used to comport behavior in a way that is different living here. Because, so the culture and the cultural pressione, in English,
passion? I don't know.
Cultural pressure.
Pressure, yeah.
Yes. I didn't hear. Sorry, pressure. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Arvin.
Yeah, when you live in a society is quite strong.
Okay.
So
yeah, obviously, yeah.
we consider this.
Yeah, this is the idea of obviously adjusting to the place where you live. If you move from your own place, you end up adjusting to the place where you live, obviously. So probably something you leave something in your country. You can take your roots with you, but you can't be totally anyway yourself in another country.
Yeah,
okay, thank you, Giovanna. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so if nobody else wants to talk about people they know, if they have any experience in another city, another country. Lydia, you were in China, come on. Tell me something about Chinese people. I know that in this period anyway, probably is not the best moment, but. I can't hear Lydia.
Hello?
Yeah, okay, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Good evening. I didn't really turn anything on because I don't really know anybody. I was just looking at the conversation, want to see if there was something, like I want just to hear the whole conversation and everything. But yeah, I can relate because I think each and every country has their own as its own like way of carrying things on, like everybody, every culture and population, they have their own behavior, like code of behaviors. And yes, social pressure is a real obstacle. I can relate because I lived in Japan for years.
Wow.
Yeah, there are some societies that are very strict, so either you adapt or you just can't live there. This is my opinion.
Okay, thanks for your opinion. Thanks for sharing. Thanks a lot, Vincenzo. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, so Lydia, did you want to say something? I couldn't hear you before. I can't hear you.
I don't know, but can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, it must be my speakers then. Well, yeah, I did live in China for a year. Well, as opposed to Japan, like Vincenzo shared, as opposed to Japan, it's very free. Now, Chinese culture is very, leaves a lot of freedom to the tourist. And because they are very free themselves, they don't have many boundaries. They are, even though personal space, like maybe Giovanna is an anthropologist, she will correct me eventually, but they have one thing about specific cultures is the way that they perceive personal space. Maybe they have a different personal space, which is not only physical, it's also mental, and they don't share a lot of their own lives.
Okay.
But they are happy to spend the whole day with you for an extended period of time. I went on vacation for 2 weeks with a girl that I met one time. and she offered to come with me. So that was very, very particular. That was very peculiar, very special. So yeah. And yes, it is true. They're different. To see them in China or outside of China, of course, culture behaves differently, I guess.
Okay. Thank you, Lydia, for sharing. Thank you for your cooperation. Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, Isa, if you agree, can we share the photo with the melting pot, please? Okay, I don't know if you can see it very well, but okay, melting pot. Where does melting pot come from? Okay, they started talking about this melting together, you know, used as a metaphor for melting and mixing cultures in the 1780s, so a long time ago, okay? But they really started using a melting pot as a metaphor to describe this mixture of cultures in 1908, when this particular when this play was staged for the first time in the US. Okay, was staged for the first time, and the writer, so the playwright, is Israel Zangwill, who is a British writer. But anyway, he wrote something to describe the melting pot in the US, so in the America. In fact, is the title of this play is The Melting Pot, the Great American Drama. Okay, so if you see the poster, anyway, shows the melting pot, the pot. That is, anyway, this a pot is a container, obviously, but the melting pot was used in foundries to melt different metals so that you could have, as a result, steel. That was one of the strongest kinds of metals. Okay, so that's where it comes from. But if you see in this poster, anyway, from this melting pot comes out a spiral of different people. Okay, so this is the idea of the melting pot. So the idea of fusing, so melting all the cultures together. Okay. Okay, thank you, Isabel. Okay, I wanted to ask you anyway. So this is where the metaphor comes from, and obviously the two most multicultural cities, or better called melting pots, are New York and London. Okay, does anyone know anybody, or has anybody visited London or New York? Does anybody want to share anyway their... No? Has anybody of you been to London or New York? No?
So yeah, I used to live. I lived in close to London in some year ago, and there are a lot of people, different people from different countries. For example, from Sri Lanka and Indian people. So I think there is a kind of a melting pot. Different people that who share their culture, and they I don't know how to say, take the culture from England also. So it's like,
I totally agree.
It was very interesting to live there. Yeah.
Do you know that they say that if you stand in Piccadilly Circus for a little while, I think 10 minutes, you can hear people speaking in more than 300 different languages. because anyway, it's true that London is considered a real melting pot, probably even more than New York. That's what they say in the end. Also, you know, because I don't know if you read the material I sent you, but anyway, I took two extracts from two different two journalists. One is American. The first one is American and talks about anyway the two theories of multiculturalism. And the second is English, who really talks about London as a melting pot. And this kind of mixture has always existed in London since anyway also the 17th and 18th century. So anyway, it has always been a big melting pot. Okay. What else I wanted to say? Okay, I think probably now, if anyone wants to say if it's you know, that melting pot can somehow be, because you know the first journalist, especially the American journalist, says that that multiculturalism has two theories. So he puts the two theories together of a melting pot and a salad of bowl. So he says that probably a melting pot is where it's like preparing a vegetable soup where anyway all the ingredients are fused and melted in something cooked. While if you make a salad, all the ingredients don't mix because they keep their own taste. Okay?
Can I speak?
Do you agree? Who is it?
Me. Hi. Okay, I used to live in London. It's me, Clara. Okay.
Yeah, it's you. I know. I see you now.
Okay.
I had to scroll.
Okay, I was born in London. Okay, and I saw a lot of people coming from different countries and making, I think, efforts to adapt. Okay. To the English culture, but it's also true that where they were very, very how to say, bond, okay, to their traditions. I'm talking especially about Indian people, for example, because in the area where I used to live, okay, there were a lot of Italian people, and I could see this from, you know, my family's friends. Okay, every Sunday we used to gather together. Okay, and of course we had Italian food, and I think this was true for all the people who came abroad. They keep their traditions very alive. Yes.
So you do believe that multiculturalism is possible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, this is what I wanted to say. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, does anybody, for example, Giovanna, do you agree with the idea that multiculturalism can exist and we don't really need a melting pot?
Well, what I studied, and as we can see, now we talk about interculture. That is, they are not more divide the culture. They're not. There is not fusion, or they are divided, but they meet each other. They, keeping their characteristics and then taking from the culture, external culture.
So somehow there is an integration, you're saying, not really.
Well,
Okay. Okay. Well, yes. Anyway, at this point, I would like to ask Brian something, because obviously for American people, I wanted to probably to send you this too, but then I avoided because it was a blog of immigrants who live in the US, and they, especially one of the bloggers said that if you are an immigrant, so if you go and live in the US, if you move to the US, you have to be American first of all, and then you can be yourself, and you can have your own tradition. Is it true, Brian, in your opinion?
I believe so. Is you buy into the American culture, no? Maybe not the first generation, but the second generation is assimilated in what is the American lifestyle, the American dream, no? So
Yeah.
the moment you move to America, you buy into the American way of life.
Yeah. Okay. So you do agree anyway with the blogger. Okay. But and I did it too, but I didn't really want anyway to start something only about Americans. But anyway, the idea that it's true that you have to adjust anyway to the place you go to live in, probably. Okay. Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, at this point, I don't know if anyone else wants to say something about, multiculturalism and melting pot, if they believe in one or the other, or if they can coexist.
I want to share an anecdote.
Yeah, go.
So, because when Brian was talking, I remembered the first time I went to the USA. I'm Canadian originally, and my family and I'm talking my mother and my two uncles with their children and my grandfather. We drove all the way from Montreal to West Virginia, and that's a long ride. And we met a Greek family from, don't know, in New York, somewhere in New York. And we spent our vacation time with them. And then one night we went out together, and we kids met with the kids and their friends. And we introduced ourselves saying that we were Canadian, Italian, we spoke French, and at some point, after a few hours, I went there and someone said, "Oh, we're the Canadian, Italian, French people." Having this confusion in mind, because to them it was weird that we recognize ourselves in being multicultural. Them, they were Greek, they had a Greek background, all of them, but they were Americans. They were from the USA. So it was really strange to them that we introduced ourselves saying all three of them, like, okay, French. We didn't say we were French, but we said we spoke French. And then Italian because our grandparents are Italian, and then we're Canadian because we're living in Canada. So we relate to all these different aspects of our culture, but them, it was very strange for them. And just wanted to share this anecdote, which I think is really funny.
Thank you, Lydia, because anyway, so I totally agree with you. And I can say that I am a melting pot, because anyway, I wouldn't be what I am if I hadn't had anyway, this background anyway. So obviously in my family, there is Italian blood, English culture, American culture. And then I am married to a Brazilian guy. So I really, believe of being an icon of a melting pot. Because anyway, and sometimes anyway, it depends on how you do it. You're not forced. It's just that parts of different things that become part of you. Okay. And so I'm happy anyway to have all these cultures mixed in me, so that make me what I am, and I'm happy. Okay. Now, anyway, the other part was about the greetings. So for this part, I'd like to call my son to help me with all the greetings. We'll try to do some of the greetings, not all of them, because we're already running late. Okay, but I wanted to show you some of them. Okay. Hi. Okay. I don't know if you have them in front of you, if you have all the greetings in front of you, but the first one was excellent. I loved it. To stand your tongue out. Okay. Okay, here he is. It's my son with long hair, glasses. Okay. Okay, come on. The first greeting was tongue out. Okay. And okay, I'll probably this one I think was in Tibet. Okay, so at least I'm trying to check the places where they come from. Okay, then there was the bump noses, that is in Qatar, Yemen, Oman, United Arab Emirates. Okay, what was the bump noses? Okay, this is the bump noses, 2-3 times. Okay. For this one, I would like Isabel and Julio to help me, because here we have the different ways. Okay, so they're showing the Urquiz in Spain. We'll show you the one in Italy, okay? And then the one in Russia, 1, 2, and 3. And then in France, they say that they do it also up to 4 times. So it is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Then we'll go on with the rump noses in New Zealand. So what do they do in New Zealand? They put their foreheads like this, and then they rub noses, okay? With the nose, rub noses. Okay.
Yes, they rub noses until the fire is sparked.
Thank you, Arben, for this.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have shaking hands that everybody knows because it's easiest. But there are differences. In China, the grip is looser. In Germany, where they are very, they have to show they're strong, there is only one strong grip like this. And then you leave it, okay? Okay, then clap your hands. This was very interesting in Zimbabwe and Mozambique. Okay, so the first person to greet claps the hands once, like this, and generally women also with an angle. We have to be careful with this. Okay, while men, yeah, like this, 1 time. While the person who greets after does it with double clap, okay, and usually men do it with their fingers and the palms like this, while women like this. Okay, okay. Then what else? Put your hands on your heart. This is very beautiful in Malaysia. Okay, so I'll show you this. The person puts the hands like this, then the other person slowly touches and then puts hands on their heart. Okay, that's very beautiful.
We're not going to adopt that, I'm afraid, now, living through these COVID times. Okay.
And then then there is the bow. The bow is very interesting because they have different ways to bow. You know what is a bow? No? Okay. So let me see if I still remember that in Cambodia, Laos, and Thailand, they press, okay, so they do it like this, okay, higher, very high. The higher it is, the more respect you show, and they nod their head, okay, like this. In Japan, no hands, or better, the hands for men go on the, let me see, I have to check, I don't remember very well. The hands go, wait. On the side, okay, so men on the sides and women on their thighs, here, thighs, okay? And men on the side normally, and then they have to bow 90 degrees. 90 degrees, no, the angle of 90 degrees, okay? And then this is very interesting because number 9, They do it in Greenland, but you can do it only with people you love because you have to sniff. Okay, like a dog. Okay, so in this case, let's see what Patty says it, because there is nothing quite like the smell of someone you love, it says. And so what do? They place the nose and the upper lip against someone's cheek, like this, and you sniff. Interesting, no? So you sniff. Okay. But in South Pacific, they press the cheeks together, okay, like this, and they take a deep breath, okay? Okay. And the last one, revere your elders. This is very important. Here there are a lot of older people, okay? Like me. I'm not very young. I look very young, but I'm not very young. Okay, so, and it's nice to show respect for older people. And let's say that in Asia and Africa, they show, it's very important to show respect. And so you revere, first of all the people, okay? So, for example, okay, so they take an older person, okay, so they take an older person's hand in some places and they put it on their heart, okay? So they take the hand of the older person and they put it on their heart, okay? Okay, and then while in other places, probably, so in other places, they take the older person's hand and press it gently to their foreheads, okay, on the forehead. Okay, gently on the forehead. And let's say that in India, they touch older people's feet. Older people's feet. Okay. And in some other places, they actually put themselves on their knees. So the youngest one goes on the knees, okay, to show respect to elder ones. Okay. Okay, greetings are finished. Greetings around the world. Okay, now I'd like to ask you which one you liked the most and why. Come on.
Saying hello would be enough.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I didn't like the one from Zimbabwe. It is too it's too difficult. It's strange. I don't know. I didn't like that one. It was the worst one, in my opinion.
Jokes aside, I think it's very important to study more in depth all these ways of greetings. Yeah. But especially because they bear, of course, they bear meaning, a deep
yeah, of
meaning.
course, yeah.
Because these are populations which survived, and especially the ones that Joanna was talking about in Africa, for example, showing respect towards the elders. That is like establishing a hierarchy and at the same time recognizing it. Okay, so if you recognize a hierarchy within a tribe, it means that in all likelihood you are going not just to adapt to the rules, but also have a specific position in that hierarchy.
Yeah.
If you don't accept, so you reject these rules, then it means that you are an outcast. You're going to be an outcast, I think.
Yeah.
And yes, but I would say that each of these ways of greetings has come forth as a result of a specific civilization. So I would say that doing this, like the Japanese do, or the Chinese, perhaps Lydia knows better if they do this, I don't know.
Yeah.
if you do this in Lisbon, okay, people might laugh at you because that doesn't form part of your civilization, I think.
Yeah.
I think so. So I would say that hello, or just a firm shake of hand would be enough.
Or in Cockney, hey mate.
Hi mate. Hi mate. Yes.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you anyway now something nice, because obviously, especially in Western countries, the most common kind of greeting is a shaking hands. Do you think that in the next month, with all what is happening now, we will change our way to greet people? Or are there any new ways to greet people? Isabel, do you know any? I think you do. Probably with the Julio.
I think, for example, young people have different kind of greeting. I think, for example, ¿qué pasa? For example.
Wow, nice.
¿Qué pasa?
¿Cómo estás?
¿Cómo estás? ¿Qué tal? In that way.
But without, considering that now we can't have any contact, do you know if there are new ways to greet people without contact, because we can't have a contact now?
Without contact in this period?
Yeah, in this period.
Yeah.
With the elbow, no? With the elbow.
In this way, or with your feet, no?
Yeah. Oh, with your foot, no? Yeah, very good. Yeah.
We can.
Yeah, or blowing a kiss. Very good. That's probably the best way to greet people now. With blowing a kiss. Or a heart. Tell me, Julio, sorry, I interrupted you.
For us, is impossible not to have a contact.
Yeah, I know. It is difficult.
Yeah.
It is very difficult at the moment. But go ahead, Isabel.
Yeah.
But as Isabel said, probably anyway, blowing a kiss or anyway a heart. I think these things can still show anyway the love we have. We want to show. If we want to show love to someone, we'll find a way. I think. Obviously with my son or my husband, so the people who are in my nuclear family, I can do it. But anyway, I think I can show my love in different ways, and my friendship in different ways, even without contact. Okay. Anybody else wanted to say something? Cecilia, do you miss the contact? Do you miss the contact with people in this period?
Well, yes, I do. Yes, I would like a little bit of social contact, but as you said before, we are trying to explore new ways of social contacts as we are doing now. This is a new way.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Cecilia. You're totally right. Yeah, especially in this moment, that's what we're doing. It's a way to share our opinions and our enthusiasm about talking and socializing. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Cecilia.
Thanks to you.
Okay. Giovanna, wanted to say something?
Well, about my experience in Africa, in Burkina Faso.
Tell me.
Well, it was quite different from, but I don't know, for instance, in France, because it's a former French colony, I don't know in France how do say hello, how they say hello.
Yeah, I think it's said with the 4 kisses, the four air kisses. Yeah, that's what it says.
Well, I remember three ways. So because there were also different ethnic groups.
Yeah.
So I remember one time I went to a funeral.
Yeah.
It was very, very crazy, because a guy started to say hello to me. I started laughing, because even if I'm an anthropologist, so i può inchinarsi,
Yeah.
go and give me my hands and get him back. Give me his hands and get him back. And the boy, I can't understand anything, but because it was like.
Okay, so he was using different things. Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, they say hello each other. Your family. What about your children? What about your parents? It is a ritual to say hello. Otherwise, the last say hello between the women in the village. Because I live in a village. They met each other during the morning, and they started to talk without because they put on the head charge like woods or water. So they talk each other, but without seeing.
Without looking at each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was really very, very strange because we are used to touch and say hello. Also with the others, what about your family, your children, and so on. The women of the village, so they didn't speak French. It was a mother tongue, a native mother tongue.
Okay.
So for the French contact, yes. For the development projects, but the difficult for me talking English. Maybe they kept your culture instead of other people going in the city, talking with the Europeans. So having contact with the European culture.
Yeah, this is like the Aborigines anyway. So anyway, the same thing that happens in Brazil, for example. So there are some tribes that have contact with cities, and so people who live, outside the Amazon forest. But there are people who still live in the core of the forest, in the heart of the forest. So they have no contact with the people outside, with the society, with the people who with civilization. And so obviously they still keep their roots and their customs and traditions and rituals too, probably.
Yeah, they're closed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I don't know if anyone else wants to say something. I hope you liked it. Yeah,
Agatha, hi, it's Agatha.
Yeah, Agatha, go ahead. I'm so happy to hear you. Yeah, go ahead, tell me.
I'm trying to say something, about my personal experience about greetings. I work at Constitutional Court, protocol office of the Constitutional Court. So when I organize public events, institutional public events, and international public events. So when I have to organize international public events, normally the meetings are composed by 2 or 3 courts, international courts. I need to study their culture, their way to greet someone, what they eat, how they wear, because in the first contact, when our court meets the other court, in the first during the first moment, if we show that have studied their way to live, is a good beginning of our relationship, because we appreciate, is a way to say that we appreciate their culture, we respect their culture, and is more likely that we can achieve an agreement in our meeting. Is a very important part of the construction of an organization when you work in this field.
In this field. Very interesting, Agatha. Thank you very much. And anyway, what kind of, did I say something wrong when I showed the greetings, or they were okay, more or less? Because I found this on the internet, so obviously I don't know if everything is correct.
Normally we find the internet too.
Okay, okay, so I did probably the right thing. Okay, thank you, very nice. So obviously, anyway, the first approach with the people is anyway greeting a person. So it is important probably to show that we share something that it's their own. So obviously, if we go and visit a person, it's nice to greet the person the way the way they want to, or anyway to find probably a compromise between our way to greet and their way to greet, or at least anyway to know something about it. Okay, anybody else wanted to say something? Marco, do you want to say something? Did you like the greetings?
Okay, yes. I've never thought there could be many different kinds, so a lot of different kind of greeting. Yeah. But in my opinion, the most beautiful is the Russian.
The Russian with the
Russian
three?
greeting. Russian
Okay.
greeting, yes.
Yeah, the Russian.
Oh, there is one little thing about the Russians, because a man in Russia kiss on the lips. Yes, that is something. Okay, so that's why most of us have avoided over the past few years visiting Russia.
Okay.
No, I wanted to just say a couple of things about the cauldron, the melting pot,
Yeah,
which actually this session. Okay, that's a very worrying image, in fact, because if you consider that there is like throngs of people landing inside the cauldron, it means that, and the fire is on, it means that, well, somebody else has started the fire. So who is tending the fire?
Yeah.
Who's tending that fire? Is this process self-started, or that's us who started it? Okay, in what ways? Okay, apparently we from that image, what you gather is that you are the victim of this. Okay, but if you are the victim, that means that behind this process then must be somebody who has convicted you, right? So that leaves a lot of room for imagination, etc., which perhaps will constitute topics for the yet to come workshops on this multiculturalism. Okay. Now, but on the other hand, if we are the ones who started this fire, it means that we have triggered it off, so we can keep it under control. And if we want to keep it under control, it means that we take steps into that direction. In fact, Giovanna was talking about, now we say interculturalism, okay, which is yet another even more elaborate concept to understand, I think. But anyway, humankind has always had to do with multiculturalism. Okay, most of you now are in Rome. Okay, and how many neighborhoods did you have in the ancient Rome in which you had foreigners living there? Okay, the Jewish ghetto is a landmark. The Greek neighborhood, okay, the Greeks had their own neighborhood, which is more or less at the Fonte Boario today, okay? Yeah. And so on. If you read in these monuments, in these tablets, old tablets, ancient tablets, you will see names like German names. You will see Celtic names, Gallic names, okay? you will see Greek names a lot. Okay. I think that, but now Joanna can clarify better than I think that people from the outskirts, okay, from the periphery of any empire would move to the center. That's why that is the destiny of big empires. The destiny of big empires, and Isabel knows too because she's from Madrid, okay? New York was never an empire. It was never the capital of an empire. London, yes. Rome, yes. Okay. And if you are a minority in your own country, if you feel like you have been subjugated, let's say, for example, you are Greek, from Crete, okay? Okay, subjugated by the Romans. What do? First thing is to migrate. Sure. You move towards the center of the empire where you can have the favors, you can earn the favors of the Roman administration and get rid of the persecution. Because if you remain on the periphery, then you'll be always subjected to all sorts of injustice. But the more to the center you move in, the better it is for you. This happens if you go to Russia. For example, Tajiks from Tajikistan didn't feel at home in their own country during the Tsarist times. So they moved to Moscow. Okay? Indians from Kerala, for example, from New Delhi or from wherever, moved closer to London, okay, closer to England, okay, in this case to London, because they would have all the benefits that the empire would grant to its subjects. And the same happened with so many other empires, okay? That is what the Americans avoided. That is why America is a great country, because it's different. They didn't move there. They didn't move, I believe, but then Brian, where is he? Yes. Brian can add. Yes. The Americans came up with a pretty different plan, which I don't know if that was concocted or if that was very natural, sounded natural, and they just thought, let's adopt it because this is a plan which works. But it worked with the Americans. Now, I don't know to what extent.
What was the plan, Arben? I don't understand. Plus, the America was let's say, inhabited. Didn't have a living culture.
Yes, exactly.
It wasn't It wasn't like colonizing India. I mean, I appreciated your historical. I didn't expect you saying something like this because I really appreciated all your historical process you went through. But
no.
I'm not clear on this.
Yes. I'll tell you. Okay. So America is a new country, okay? Relatively new country, okay? It was founded mainly by English, Irish, okay, people, Dutch, German, Swedish, okay, to a more limited, measure. Okay, but what happens if you are an Italian migrant and you decided to migrate to the United States? Okay. In your home country, you are not discriminated, okay? Because you live in your country, okay? Or Belgian, or I don't know, French to Canada. When you go there, that country offers you a new identity. All right? So that is the fundamental.
Oh, okay, so you're comparing the past colonialism to the new.
Yes, of course.
Okay, sorry, I didn't. That wasn't clear for me. Thank you.
I was not talking about present day. I was not talking about present day. Okay. Yes, and America did something really wonderful. Look, let's reflect for a moment on just one fact. As you know, we're not far away from where I live here. there was the Gustav Line, okay? The Germans had built a front, okay, during the Second World War, and they were expecting the Allied, which eventually then broke through. And you know, the funny story is that most of these Americans who came were Italians. Most of them. They had whole battalions or brigades in which there were lots of Italians. So these were Italians who came to Italy to liberate Italy, and when they first landed in Sicily, they fought against other Italians. You know, Sicily, okay? Because first they landed in Italy and then they walked up all the Italian peninsula. But that is the funny story, because the Americans, that was already the second generation, the Americans in the meanwhile had given the second generation a completely new identity. The same happened in Vietnam. In Vietnam happened the same. You would have a Vietnamese in the American army fighting against the Viet Cong. They were all Vietnamese, okay, because now they call themselves Americans. And the same happened in Korea, okay, just to mention some of these few countries. So once you have like a pretty white fence and a beautiful house in America, okay, and you live in there, every morning you have to raise your American flag, stars and stripes. That is a new attributed citizenship, but also identity. And that's why after that, you can take any sort of oath and go and fight for the United States. You can be an Arab and then you go fighting in Iraq.
And do you agree with that?
I agree with what?
And do you prefer that kind?
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm not taking a stance. I'm not taking a stance. I'm saying this is the result.
Okay.
Okay, that is the outcome of different
Because I
policies.
don't appreciate that.
You don't appreciate that?
No.
Yes.
Because when I meet American people, they'll tell me they have a background from, I don't know, Muslim background, from North Africa, or from East Europe, or they come from somewhere in Asia, but they don't speak the language, they don't know the culture, they don't understand other people's behaviors from their own country, let's say, or their parents' country. So they lost
their roots,
most of their roots. And for me, who I've been studying foreign languages and cultures for most of my life, and I am trying to integrate all of those cultures, maintaining all of them. So of course I can't agree with erasing everything from my background or something else that I learned.
Yes, but exactly, this is what Joanna was saying before. Okay, you say now we don't speak anymore about multiculturalism, but interculturalism, which is a new tendency perhaps, and let's hope a more successful attempt to make people sort of merge and coexist, okay? Because now I think we're living through globalization, which is even more intense than it was. Globalization has always existed, but it's even more intense than it was like 100 years ago, I think. Okay, Clara, it was just amazing.
Right?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mute myself. Okay. I was mute. Yeah, I was muted because I was listening. Yeah, thank you, Arben. But yeah, I do believe that probably, as I said before, in the US is the place where you become American. And after 2-3 generations, I know, because I have relatives in US too, and you know, they don't speak Italian anymore. They don't know anything about Italy. Sometimes they go and they don't even go anymore to eat spaghetti and meatballs because unfortunately my grandmother is not with them anymore. And so the idea is that unfortunately after two or three generations, Americans are Americans and they have very little about them. And so this is what I didn't want to start this, but and I don't even know anyway. Obviously, in I don't know, probably in Europe, because of Great Britain, no matter the Brexit, anyway, is still part of this continent. So probably in people who go to England, they still feel part of this continent. No, so probably it's even more difficult to forget totally your roots. So I don't know, but I hope anyway that, as everybody said, it's possible to have all this culture that exists, stay together, exist together. They need to exist, coexist. Why? Because it's so beautiful to have your own roots and not to forget about your roots. Having spaghetti and meatballs or anyway with your relatives and friends, or I don't know, cooking paella and tortilla for everybody. So I think it's very beautiful to share, especially because I think that the food is one of the best ways to share anyway your roots and to share anyway your way to be, because that's how it is. Or to have you know, a beer anyway, a warm beer. That's what I do anyway. My husband makes fun of me because Brazilian people drink a very cold beer and I drink warm beer, and usually Guinness is my favorite. So anyway, he makes fun of me. But we drink beer together. He has it cold and I have it warm. And what's the problem, no? Let's coexist with the things. This is very beautiful.
It's not just to coexist, it's also to promote. You know, the United
to promote.
Nations
Very
have,
good.
yes,
Thank you.
United Nations have issued several regulations and rules and directives about the preservation of local cultures, languages, traditions, etc. Thousands of them. The positive side to this, which is very positive, I would say, is that the more cultures exist or coexist, the better it is for every individual culture. Why? We live in a globalized world. And because we live in a globalized world, sooner or later, we'll have to face up to the same problems. For example, let's take COVID, okay? Same problem means that, no, seriously, I'm not joking, Isa, okay? That is just one, okay? Or unemployment, let's say unemployment.
Let's
or
not
pollution.
talk about it for a second.
Pollution, okay? Pollution, okay, for example. If we have different ways of thinking, okay, if our mental processes differs from one another, it means that we come up with different solutions to the same problem, okay? In other words, means that if we have one problem, but unfortunately we all think in the same way, it means that the solution will only be one, which can work, might work, but might also not work. So the wider this range is of solutions, the better it will be, okay? Because if you think that you have found a remedy to this COVID, and you think that I have this pill which consists of herbs, okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and then the Finnish will say, oh, we have a vaccine. And then the Japanese will say, no, we have a specific type of rice, which will work fine, okay? It means that we have a very wide and colorful range of solutions, and we can choose from. And that is the point. Because you have a richer possibility of choice. Okay. I finished. I talked too much, I'm afraid. Okay.
What do you think? We want to go and have dinner, everybody? Are you happy?
We could go and talk about it forever. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Bene,
Lydia, sorry, I didn't hear you.
direi che ci siamo intrattenuti abbastanza e soprattutto io non ho capito niente di tutto quello che avete detto, quindi insomma sto un po' scherzo, un po' no. Comunque ringrazio tutti per essere stati qua, soprattutto ringrazio Clara per questa opportunità, insomma, per essere stata insieme a noi, per averci offerto questo spazio. E se volete seguiteci, siamo sui social, su Facebook, su LinkedIn, abbiamo provato anche, stiamo anche su Instagram, o comunque seguiteci, condividiamo tante cose. Se poi lo volete riascoltare vi manderemo la possibilità di accedere al canale YouTube e riascoltare diciamo, il workshop che abbiamo fatto.
Okay.
E poi seguiteci perché sicuramente ne faremo altri e quindi se vi è piaciuto abbiamo la possibilità di vederci ancora in questa modalità. E niente, per adesso di nuovo vi ringrazio tutti e
Grazie
alla
a voi.
prossima.
Grazie mille.
Grazie a te.
Grazie a voi.
Grazie a te, complimenti veramente a Clara, che tra l'altro non pensavo avesse anche le capacità di attrice simili. Lei e Kyle sono stati bravissimi anche a fare tutta la simulazione dei saluti, veramente incredibile secondo me.
Di qualunque cosa e quindi io veramente
Bravissima.
stamattina ha proprio il dono della forza, della potenza, diciamo, della potenza umana. Lei ce l'ha questo dono e quindi io veramente le sono infinitamente grata e anche a tutti voi ovviamente sono grata comunque che siete qui e a Paola che ce l'ha ricordato.
Thank you, Paola.
Grazie mille, grazie
See you
Clara.
tomorrow, Paola.
Bye.
See you, everybody.
Grazie Clara, grazie a tutti.
Take care.
Thank
No,
you.
bye.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Brava.
Ciao.
Well done, Clara.
Ciao a
Yes.
tutti.
Yeah. Bye, Marco. Bye.
Ciao.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Okay.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao, Ciccio.
Ciao.
Ciao, Ciccio.